Well, I'm joined now by the independent pension consultant, John Ralfe. John, you know more about this scheme than most people. Why is it in such a pickle?
Hello, Ian. It's in a pickle. It's the largest scheme in the country. It's got the largest deficit. It's completely out of control. It hasn't been properly managed. Universities seem to be in denial about the problem. Certainly USS seems to be in denial about the problem, and I'm not sure whether they're grabbing it by the scruff of the neck and sorting it out properly.
So what's the problem? I mean, obviously we hear a lot about pension deficits being exaggerated by the fact that the discount rate, interest rates are very, very low. Is it down to that, or is it down to bad investment decisions?
It's down to a number of things. Lots of companies are closing their pension schemes. It's just too expensive to have the traditional final salary pension where you get a certain amount of pension depending how long you've worked for the company. People are living too long, and the amount that you can get on the money that invested has just gone down. And there's absolutely no reason to think that USS should be immune from that. USS has exaggerated the problem. Its problem is very much of its own making, because it's taken a bet over the last 40 years since it was set up. It's taken a bet on equities. For the first 20, 25 years, that paid off. For the last few years, it hasn't. And my concern is that USS is in denial about that.
So what's the pension regulator done about this? Should they have stopped the rot?
Well, we don't know. I mean, the pension regulator is very important. The pension regulators had a kicking over the last few months from the Working Pension Select Committee on BHS, for example. I think the pension regulator will be looking at this very carefully. We don't know what the pension regulator thinks. The pension regulator isn't going to tell us, and universities aren't going to tell us, but they certainly will be taking a very, very careful note of this because of the size of the underlying deficit and the potential problems that might create.
So what are the universities going to have to do to close the gap? I mean, this is the key reason, presumably, why tuition fees are having to rise, is it?
Well, we don't know. Universities would say there isn't that causal link. But if more money has to go into the pension scheme, you mentioned the £17.5 billion deficit, we're talking about university contributions having to double just to plug that deficit. That's got to come from somewhere. Where does it come from? Well, it's got to come from student fees. Student fees don't necessarily go up from 9,000 to 10,000, but the quality of education probably goes down.
Is there a bit of a generational unfairness issue here in that young lecturers, people coming into the university system now to teach, are now going to have to make more of a contribution to their pensions, or in some cases even to pay for more generous pensions for older lecturers?
I think that's right. I think we're going to find that the younger lecturers will end up, when they retire, with a smaller pension than the people who are on the verge of retirement now. Nevertheless, I think that what USS has got to do, what Universities UK has got to do, which represents all the universities, is bite the bullet. They've got to close the defined benefit final salary scheme altogether. They've got to move to defined contribution, set at a fairly generous level, and then they've got to use the money that they save to plug the deficit. And I'm not sure whether there are many more chances for them to do that. They fudged it 3 years ago. I think if they fudge it now, rather than taking drastic action, it's only going to get worse.
So very briefly, John, if they don't do something fairly shortly, then this is going to tip universities into a bigger financial crisis.
I think all we'll be doing is kicking the can down the road.
All right, John Ralfe, we've got to leave it there, I'm afraid. Thanks for joining me. Good to see you.